You're a vet.
Yes.
And you're not allowed to discuss or recommend it. But anyone else on the street can.
Yeah.
We still lack a lot of great research in terms of dosages. And so I know you can't formally make recommendations, but how does a pet owner who wants to try this go about making sure they're doing good and not harm?
Sure. You know, it's a really tricky situation. The good news is if we're talking about CBD, particularly CBD that's produced from hemp, you're talking about a very, very safe medication. So, you know, a pet owner is not going to get into too much trouble in that regards. The worst thing that happens if you give them a little too much, they might get a little bit sleepy. The same is not true if somebody were to, say, buy a medical marijuana product in a dispensary that may have THC in it. Now, THC can have a lot of medical benefits as well, but clearly that's something that has to be used with a lot more caution. So as a means of trying to help people guide people through this, in my book, I wrote an entire chapter about how to use medical cannabis safely and effectively in pets to just give people a starting place, something to look at, because a lot of veterinarians out there just don't really know how to have that conversation.
So am I correct in my understanding that THC is actually quite toxic to dogs?
THC can be toxic to dogs. In fact, dogs are more sensitive to the toxic effects of THC than even people are. That said, it has all of the same potential medical benefits that it would for a person, but just like any other medication, it has to be dosed appropriately in order to be safe.
And that's where people need to be so careful.
That's what I'm curious, if let's say you are a pet owner and you want to look at the composition, even if you don't know the dose, how do you read the back of a box and know you're getting primarily CBD and not THC, or what do you look for?
From a labeling standpoint, you know, different products are going to have different kind of information on the label, and unfortunately, there's no government oversight or regulation to make sure those label claims are accurate and correct. So what I recommend people do is if they're thinking of buying a product, get in touch with the company. Ask them how they produce their product. Is it organic? Is it pesticide-free? Ask for what's called a certificate of analysis, which means that product went to a laboratory and you can see what's actually in it. You know, what I usually tell people is if you call the company and they want to talk your ear off about how great their product is and how they make it, that's probably a really good product. The person that starts hemming and hawing and making excuses, that's the product that you might want to stay away from.
Well, my clinical study, when our dog went off to college with my son Matt and lived in the fraternity house, as you can imagine, I went to visit and that dog was walking with hip problems better than ever. So I'm not sure what I can attribute that to, but.
My understanding, Dr. Richter, is actually it's not a particularly safe practice to blow smoke towards your dog, right?
I saw
you should be looking for something like this, I presume,
I can tell you, the
that.
CBD treatment, and when Nala was getting older and would have days where she didn't want to eat as much, I would have loved to have had this as an option, as a benign option, because I was doing everything from acupuncture, and I would have used this. Where are we at, before we go to break, in the world of veterinary medicine? Because huge advances in terms of legalization, medicinal marijuana for humans in many, many states. In the world of vets, how far away are we from vets in these states saying, yes, these are going to be approved treatments and you can discuss it formally, openly?
Sure. So, you know, legally speaking, there is not a state in the nation at this point that has a specific law to allow veterinarians to discuss or recommend cannabis for animals. In California, we do have a piece of legislation before the assembly right now. It's State Bill AB 2215, which would allow just that. It would allow veterinarians to be able to have that conversation with pet owners. That could be as little as a few months away from being passed and being signed, and that would be an absolute game changer for the veterinary community and for pet owners in California.
Dr. Richter, thanks so much.
Interesting.
And Morgan Sky, we're so happy that the dogs are doing better. Thank you for sharing your story. We really appreciate it.